Hey, welcome back to another video. I'm Mr. Eusebio, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Canon 60D, which is one of several cameras that we use here. I'm going to be talking about the basic features of the camera, and this is really just an introduction to get you going, get you out the door to be able to start taking some pictures. But we need to talk about the process of getting cameras from the cabinet, checking camera equipment out, to make sure that you're following the right procedures and routines. So hopefully you'll get all that down in this video. So we have the Canon 60D right here, and it actually has a lens already attached to it. And the first thing you're gonna do is actually check and make sure of the camera number. To check the camera number, it's very simple. All you need to do is actually just flip the back of the screen, and you'll find it there. This camera is designated as Canon C9. So when you check out your camera, you're actually going to be putting down the number C9 on there. By the way, this is usually the same with the other cameras. Some cameras have the numbers at the bottom, but most of them have them on the back of the LCD screen. Okay, so the first thing you got to do when you're using the camera is just to be very careful with it when you're handling it. As soon as you get the camera, one good practice is to actually put the camera cable or the camera strap around your neck to properly secure it. But the first thing you want to do is actually observe the equipment when you check it out and make sure it's actually not damaged. That's really should be the first step, is making sure there's nothing wrong with the equipment. Now to turn on the camera, it's really simple to do. There's an off and on switch that's located on the top left of the camera, and what you'll do is just flip it on, and usually that will get you started. There might be some information here depending on what's happening. Now, a couple of things that could happen when you turn on the camera is that it's been set to a video mode. So let me show you a scenario where you turn on the camera and it's been set to a video mode. So if you turn it on, you'll notice you'll hear a little mirror flip, and you can actually see inside of the camera, like you'll see it actually previewing. Now this is called the live view mode, and this is really not a mode that you should be using when you're taking pictures. I will talk about it, but in the meantime, you really shouldn't be using this mode for it. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the camera. And up here on the dial, you'll notice that there's a lot of information here. For the meantime, just to take some pictures right away, you're gonna push this button down that's on the top left. You push that down, and then what you do is you just go ahead and turn it to the little green button. Now, if you don't want to use flash, you push the button down, you go up one to the no flash option. So I would recommend you go ahead and flip it to the no flash option. That's usually a good starting point. Other than that, that's kind of the main features on here. To check other things like the battery, so let's go ahead and turn on the camera. So I went and flipped the switch on. Right here on the top, you'll see an LCD screen. Well, not a little screen here, and you'll notice this battery indicator has 3 bars. There's actually supposed to be another bar there. It means that the battery is actually starting to lose life, but you'll still be pretty good for the most part. The batteries are usually pretty good on the Canons. So I'll go ahead and turn it off. Now let's say you need to replace the battery. What you'll do is you'll go to the very bottom of the camera. You'll flip the switch outwards like this. That, use your nail, and then you need to pull this little tab up, and then when you pull it up, it'll loosen and you can pop the battery out. So that's how you get the battery out of the camera. Now over here on this side of the desk, we have a variety of chargers, and right now this is how it's organized. We have our Canon chargers on this side, and we have some of our Nikon chargers on this end. So for example, when we take the battery out of the camera, so let's say we have our camera, and then we're going to go ahead and take the battery out. When you take the battery out, what you're going to do is you are just going to go ahead and pop it into one of these containers here. Now the way it goes in is you check the arrow. You're going to go ahead and check that arrow. You notice that arrow right there? That arrow will go inwards towards the the actual charger. Now, if you've popped it in correctly, you'll see a light glow. And to know when the battery is completely charged, you'll see it turn green. That's when you know the battery is completely charged and done. Now, if you see this, that means you can actually take a battery out. You just pop it to the left and you pull the battery out and you can use that battery. In addition, there's actually additional batteries in the drawers in here. So just take a look and see if you see some spare batteries. These are for Canons. If you need the other brands for Nikons, you'll find some Nikon batteries in the next to it. After that, just go ahead and pop it in back into your camera and you should be good to go. When you're ready to check equipment out, you've already got the actual number on the camera on the back. You'll notice it says C9. What I'll do is I'll go down here and I'll go ahead and sign it out. So the first thing you're going to do is write your name. Write your whole name, C9, the date, which is 9/8 in this case of the video, and it's almost 3 o'clock. And then let's say I'm done taking photos, everything, I'm finished. What I want to do next is when I come back the next day is go ahead and sign it in. So let's say I bring it back the next day. I'm going to put 9/9, and then let's say I brought it back at 7:55 a.m., for example. If I have any additional accessories, let's say I checked out a bag or even a mic, I have to write that in there. That's additional equipment. And then charge battery just means, is the battery charged? If the battery is already charged, just say yes. If the battery is dying, go ahead and swap it out of the camera. When you bring it back, swap it out, pop it into a charger. And then if it says charge battery, just say no, because it's already being charged. You already took care of it yourself. This is only if you just leave the battery in the camera. And then I'll usually just sign this off maybe to make sure that this equipment's been checked in. And that's the checkout process. It's very simple. Hi, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to properly hold your camera when you take pictures. Now when you first get your camera, again, the first thing you should do is inspect it and make sure it's not damaged, everything's working. When everything is all set up, what I want you to do is go ahead and place the camera around your neck when you're ready to take pictures. When you do this, taking photos is, I notice students tend to hold the camera wrong a lot. What they'll do is they'll hold it like this, which is incorrect. Sometimes they'll hold it like this for some reason because they're used to holding a cell phone to take pictures. But the proper way to hold the camera is usually to take your left hand and place it right underneath the camera. Your right hand will go over on this side, and what you'll do is you'll place your index finger over the shutter button. Now, the shutter button has two sections. It has a half press and it has a complete press. The half press, and let me give you an example here. When that half press goes off, it'll acquire focus, and when you press the button all the way down, it'll take a picture. So it has two sets. It has a half press and a full press. Now when you take pictures, what you want to do is actually put the camera up to your eye so that you can actually see inside of it. And then go ahead and half press the shutter button and then press the shutter button down. Now what you're hearing is the little focus confirmation beep on the camera. Now you won't always hear that beep because it might be turned off on the camera, but for now it's enabled on this camera, so you'll be able to tell when I get focus. So for example, if I want to do sports photos, let me explain. I'll turn my camera to the little sports guide that's running on the dial. I'll hold my shutter button down, and when it acquires focus, I'll hold the shutter button down to take a series of pictures. All right, after that, I'm going to go ahead and put the camera back into the no flash mode. To take a picture, you're going to push the button halfway. You're going to feel the camera stop focusing, and then you push it down all the way to take a complete picture. And that's it. That's how you take photos with the camera. Just make sure that the AF switch is turned on your camera. And depending on your lens, whether you have a zoom lens or a prime lens, you really should not be turning the front of the camera. Now, for this case in this lens, if you're turning this front element and you're hearing some weird grinding noises, that means you should stop and check your settings. That gear grinding can damage the camera equipment. After you've gone and taken pictures with your camera, we need to find a way to go ahead and transfer your files. Now, there's two ways to do it. Depending on the computer you have, you can usually just take the SD card out of the camera and pop it right into the card reader on some of the computers in the classroom. Now, if you don't have access to those computers that have the SD card reader, you'll have to go ahead and pick up one of these Canon cables that are located on the shelving area where the batteries are. So you'll want to go ahead and get one of these cables there. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to use the SD card reader on some of the computers in the classroom. Go ahead and stop it. Once you get the card out of the camera, you're going to go ahead and pop it into the SD card reader. When you pop it into the SD card reader, push firmly until you hear a spring click. That means it's installed into the computer. When you pop in the card into the computer, you'll notice a menu will show up. Now, this may not happen all the time, but you'll see this little thing pop up. When this pops up, it'll give you the option to go ahead and open the folder to view files. When you click on that, you're going to see this folder, and you're going to see an option that says DCIM and MISC. You're going to go ahead and open up the DCIM folder, the Canon folder afterwards, and you're going to see a list of all the files that you've taken pictures of. Now, what you want to do after this is create a folder somewhere to transfer your files. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a folder on my desktop, and this could be anywhere else on your computer. Now, I have the folder open right here. What I'm going to do is go ahead and select all the files that I have in my camera, select it, and then drag it over and move it into my folder onto the computer. It's very important that you actually transfer your files onto the computer before you try editing them, because you may not be able to edit files straight from the card. You need to actually transfer it over. And that's it. That's all you have to do to transfer the cards. Just go ahead and do the safe removal tool, which is right here in the very bottom right. Safely remove the hardware, right click, eject EOS Digital F. And that's it. Safe to remove. Remove the card, pop it back into your camera, and go ahead and format it. Now, if your computer doesn't have an SD card reader, then you're going to have to go and pick up one of these cables that are located in the back of the classroom. Now, there's a specific one for Canon and a specific one for Nikon. Now, what you do is, it's basically the same process. What you need to do is go ahead and locate this panel that's on the side of the camera. Now, this panel can be revealed by pulling back this rubber tab and then exposing the ports that are on the camera. You'll notice that there's a short and a really tiny end on this part of the camera. You're going to plug it into where it says AV out digital. You pop it in there. And once you plug it in, you're going to go ahead and plug in the other side into the USB connection of your computer. Once you do that, make sure you go ahead and turn on your camera. And then the process is very similar to what you did earlier. When you plug in your camera, go ahead and navigate to the Start button right here. Go to Computer. And go ahead and look for the little camera, which is this one here, the Canon EOS 60D. Go to SD card, DCIM, 100 Canon, and then you'll notice the pictures that are on the camera. You'll go ahead and select all of them, like we did before. Make a new folder on your desktop, and go ahead and transfer those files into that folder and let it transfer. And that's how you transfer files using the USB cable if your computer doesn't have the SD card reader. Once it's done, same process, go ahead and eject the camera if it lets you. Since I don't see that option, I'm just going to go ahead and remove the plug from the computer. Don't forget to remove the USB port plug from the side of the camera. And finally, go ahead and close this flap here. A lot of students tend to forget to do this, but please go ahead and close that flap and the camera should be good to go. Go and make sure you check in the camera and return the camera properly. Testing 1, 2, 3, mic check 1. In this video, I'm going to show you how to get started on using the Nikon cameras that we have here. Now, the Nikon cameras work almost the same way as our Canon cameras. The only difference is a few settings that are different with Nikon cameras than they are with Canon. So, to get you started, okay, so the Nikon cameras have a very similar design as the Canon cameras. The mode dial is located on this end for this particular camera, and the mode dial is located on the left-hand side for the Canon. Now, to get you started, the first thing I want you to do is go ahead and just turn this dial and set it to the little flash icon. That's where we want to get you started. If you need the flash, just go ahead and turn it to complete auto. But for this exercise, just go ahead and set it to the little non-flash option. The little on and off switch is located right here, compared to the Canon, which is located just back there on the left-hand side. So very subtle differences, nothing too complicated. On the actual lens, you'll notice that this particular lens has an MA switch and an M switch. You're going to want to make sure it's set to MA. MA means manual and autofocus mode is enabled. On the back of the screen, if you pop it back, you'll find the actual number of the camera, which is N3 for Nikon. Canon uses the C number option there. Your little dial to move left and right is located back here. Your menu options located up here on the very left. But for now, we're not going to worry about those. And again, last but not least, make sure that's set to that proper setting there. To get the memory card out of the camera, you're going to pop this side here, and then the card is located here. Similar to Canon, just push the little inward onto it to notice a little spring load. Take out the card. Pop it back in, push inward to feel a little spring, and then close the memory card lid. To get the battery out, works the same way as the Canon. Just check the bottom of the camera, flip this little switch backwards. There's a little tab here. All you got to do is go ahead and pull that tab back, and then pop the little battery out. You might have to turn it sideways, and here's the battery. Notice how there is an arrow tab on here. You just pop it into the camera just like that. So again, SD card, batteries down here, and all the same settings are there. Now to take a picture with the camera, your mode dial, your actual shutter button is located right here. So when you have it placed over here, you'll do the same thing with the Canon. You do a focus press and then a press all the way, and I'll take a complete picture. If you want to access the other mode dials for the time being, if you want to do sports photos, you turn it to the little guy that's running, and then you can take pictures, and I'll take multiple shots by holding the shutter button down. Checking out camera equipment is the same for both the Canon and Nikon. The only thing that's different is that the batteries for Nikon are located on the right-hand side over here. When you need to swap it out, you'll pop the battery out of the camera, and you'll pop it into one of these holders here. If you need additional batteries, if there's none up there, this drawer here will have some batteries here for you to look for if you need them for your camera. Sign out process, like I said, is the same. Just go ahead and sign your name in case it's an N, so like N6 or whatever, the date and the time, and then go ahead and check it back in. The Nikon cables are located on this side for the time being. They should be labeled so you know which one it is. Canon is located right next to that.